We already said he's getting a plaque first.
I second that motion.
Yep. Did that voucher ever go through, the one for my
Oh, I'll
class?
check
I submitted it back. Chris.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, February 27, 2024 meeting, Planning Board. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. We have a light agenda this evening, one item. Before that, though, we do have a meeting minutes from the 23rd of January. That Lisa's given us to review. Anyone have any comments, changes? Either end of the table? No? Entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move.
Ernie moves.
Second.
Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. Any correspondence, Lisa? Okay, none. Boards. Dave said he would not make it this evening. I think he had prior engagement. I think he's out of town. Keith. Like I said, we're missing the red glow in the sky, but, you know.
Keith Maynard, Project Manager for the Town of Victor. So your next Planning Board meeting is Tuesday, March 12th at 7 p.m. First thing on the agenda is the Rivian charging stations, which is at 200 High Point Drive. Applicant is requesting approval to install 6 initial charge posts, 1 L2 charge post, and 6 future charge posts, and associated utility equipment. Second thing on the agenda is 7200 Rawson Road minor subdivision. It's at 7200 Rawson Road. Applicant is requesting approval to subdivide 18.5 acres from the 22.5 acre tax parcel 27.00-1-28.000 with remaining 4.0 acres to consist of the existing light industrial building and parking. And then the third item on your agenda is a sketch plan application, and that is for the Highline Park subdivision, 7562 Main Street, Fishers. Applicant is requesting acknowledgement of a complete application to develop under the clustering provision for 26 for-sale townhomes, one HOA lot, and 1 lot consisting of the 3 apartment buildings. This is the first step of a major subdivision, and only acknowledgement of a completed application will be considered at this meeting.
Any questions?
Anybody
for
have any
Keith?
questions? Okay.
Thank you, Keith. Okay, this is an informal discussion. The Chick-fil-A restaurant is coming before the board, proposing a 5,000 square foot Chick-fil-A quick serve restaurant with a double lane drive-through, outdoor patio area, and detached canopy to be located on a 2-acre portion of land at the southeast corner at the Eastview Mall. Applicant is before the board informally, looking for direction and feedback only. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Randy Bebout with Bowler Engineering, here on behalf of Chick-fil-A Incorporated. With me tonight is Clint Matson from Chick-fil-A Incorporated. First of all, I want to thank the board for taking the time to meet with us tonight, being that we're the only application and we're informal, so we appreciate that.
The best kind of evening for an informal discussion.
Absolutely.
Full attention.
So, as you mentioned, our goal here tonight is really just to get feedback from the board as we look to move this project forward. So, proposing a 5,000 square foot Chick-fil-A restaurant with drive-through. We'll have 2 drive-through lanes. The capacity of those drive-through lanes, the stacking capacity is about 35 vehicles. We are proposing parking for 65 parking spaces within the approximate 2 acres. And I would note that the intent for this is this would be a lease parcel for Chick-fil-A. We're not proposing to subdivide anything. As part of that lease agreement, they do have shared rights to the parking across to the north, across the Mall Ring Road. So we've got the 5,000 square foot building oriented north and south.
There's a pointer there, I believe, if
Oh.
you'd like to use it.
Perfect.
There you go.
So we've got multiple entrances into the site, into the parking area where we have the 65 parking spaces. As I mentioned, we've got the rights to shared parking across the Ring Road. We did, as some initial comments, we do have a pedestrian crosswalk coming from the building to that parking across the drive lane. The drive-through function primarily would enter here. They really could enter from any drive-through, any driveway, but the primary entryway would be here. Customers would come in. This first canopy is referred to as the meal order canopy. So underneath the canopy is speaker boards, but as part of the operation, they would also have team members out there assisting with the orders, particularly during peak hours. This is 2 lanes with a 3-foot wide sort of striped area in between, which is where the team members can safely traverse through the drive-through lane. They place their order here. They'll progress forward to this meal delivery canopy. This is where the orders are delivered from the team members. So unlike most quick-serve restaurants where there might be a window, there's actually a door here, so the team members can actually walk out and deliver to multiple lanes, multiple cars at the same time.
So there's not actually a window there for delivery to a car from, like-
There's not. There's actually a door that slides
Okay.
open that the team members are walking through to get out to the drive-through lane.
Thank you.
And then just progressing on, exiting out back to the Ring Road. We are showing some 6 parking spaces up here. Those would be used as pull-forward spaces if necessary, if an order wasn't ready and they wanted to pull somebody forward. We do have our dumpster enclosure and a shed here located just south of the building. This here, I think, is our transformer. So that's the general site layout and configuration. Just to talk a little bit about the setting of the site, there's approximately an 18-foot elevation difference between the Mall Ring Road and Route 96. So we're anticipating we'll have a retaining wall kind of running down this south side, and it'll just wrap really this whole east side and probably end potentially somewhere in front of the park or at the start of those spaces, or it may even, end up having to go around those spaces.
So that would be similar to the wall that they built opposite the P.F. Chang's, that whole
Yes.
expansion of the mall that's up against Route 96.
Yeah, so that, just to talk a little bit about the setback of the building, so this is zoned commercial. Front setback requirement is 80 feet. The building is proposed outside of that front setback, so we're at 80 feet with the building. The canopy structure, which is actually detached from the building, is about 49.7 feet from the right-of-way to that front closest edge of the canopy. So we would be seeking a variance for that setback of the canopy. And just a little information on the canopy. The purpose of those canopies is so when those team members are out there delivering meals or taking orders, they're either, it keeps protects them from the elements, whether that be the sun, the rain, the snow, whatever it may be. These are very sleek. They're about 9 to 10 foot tall. But the profile is about as narrow as you can structurally make it. And then up underneath that, there's some fans and some heaters during the different climate times. And so when we talk about the grades here, this canopy really won't have much, if any, visibility from 96 because it would be sitting down in a hole. Stormwater-wise, obviously, we've got a site that's green. We're creating new impervious. We would have to mitigate that. The intent would be to mitigate that within this lease area, and then we would discharge that. There's some existing storm sewer basins, catch basins that are, we would discharge that, which then ultimately goes to the larger ponds for the mall facility. Utilities, generally speaking, are readily available. We have water to the north. There's sewer that runs down through here, so we don't have any issues with connecting to utilities. Obviously, we'd come in with a lighting plan with dark sky compliant fixtures, a landscaping plan for the site, and then just to talk a little bit about the building. If we can, want to switch to the building.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so the intent here, yep, that one right there is perfect. So the top view is the view that faces 96. And this is how sleek that canopy is. You can kind of see that canopy in that view. It's the narrow bronze, if you will, that goes from here to here. So this is the limits of the canopy. So this building is unique to the site. We designed this such that it has a higher parapet wall, because of this sitting down in a hole. So that canopy's in the 9 to 10 feet range. So we're anticipating from 96, we'd be able to see the top half of that building from 96. This is the parking lot side. Main entry point being right here. And then there is another entry point on the front of the building, if you want to switch to the next elevation view. Yep, this is the front of the building that would face to the north, and then this is the building facing to the south. We'd also have a outdoor patio seating area that would be on the north side of the building. And then just some operational stuff. Deliveries for the facility are done really during off-peak hours. Really in the middle of the night is when those are done. So there isn't any concern with cars in the parking lot and trucks not being able to get in and out, or any issues with traffic. This facility would be run by a local operator selected by Chick-fil-A. They would employ upwards of 125 people in total to run the facility. And then during, if the board is not familiar with it, when Chick-fil-A has a grand opening, they bring in a team that will stay in the area for about 30 days, give or take, and that team is experienced and helps with the grand opening, so that the opening of that facility runs smoothly. Those people assist with traffic flow in the parking lot as needed and in the drive-through, and it just helps train the staff and gets them off on the right start, and minimizes any issues during opening. And deliveries are typically about five times a week for those products coming in during the middle of the night. And this is the 4th location in Rochester, the other 3 being Henrietta, Irondequoit, and Greece. In general, Chick-fil-A takes a lot of pride in their sites, the cleanliness of their site, and they're very well maintained. So with that, I can answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. We'll start at that end. Al?
Okay, so first of all, in general, very supportive of Chick-fil-A coming to Victor and the location. I do have some major concerns,
Okay.
primarily around the fact that we're taking. I think that's a high. Those are the big issues. Then if I get the many entrances onto that road that goes out to pedestrian walkway across that, again, high traffic. Those are secondary.
Okay. I will note that we are working on a traffic study to analyze the proposed project and the trips.
If I could piggyback with what Al said, give it a little more granular maybe. I too am very happy to have Chick-fil-A coming. I think it's going to really solidify your presence in Rochester, right? You're going to be at the four
Absolutely.
corners of the metro area, so I think that's good. One of the things I think that distinguishes the commercial stretch here along Route 96, what differentiates it from other commercial strips around the metro area is the fact that the roadway is not lined with commercial properties. The mall is set back. This 2-acre piece is sort of a nice entrance. If you look to the east, the North Face building, the Alex and Ani, kind of blend in. To Al's point about a mature property here, I'm very curious why you wouldn't have gone to the northwest to that big parking lot space there. I'm just curious about why selecting this.
You're talking about the parking lot just to the north of us?
Yeah, just to the northwest of, where the crosswalk is going to go to.
Okay,
It would
gotcha.
seem you'd be closer to the mall. For one thing, you could have people walking to the store rather than having to drive.
Understood, yeah, and I mean, we can, and we're very sensitive to what you're sharing as far as the location. I can't necessarily speak to, whether that spot was an option or not, but we'll certainly take that into consideration.
And following up again on Al's comments, the primary entrance that you're proposing, this entrance that comes in at the existing signal from High Street is a huge entrance to the mall, and this is 2 lanes coming down towards the northwest.
Correct.
And people are already confused because the left lane they can turn into Goodwill if they're aware of that, but it does taper off to 1 lane. So it's already a little problematic. And I know when a Chick-fil-A opens, people are so excited that everybody's going to come to Chick-fil-A. And at this point, I don't know if this intersection and this roadway can handle that traffic. I know as you're heading north on 96 and you're going to make a left-hand turn into the mall, on many days, that long turn lane, which is probably a quarter mile or more, is full. It takes 1 or 2 attempts to get through to make a left turn into that mall. So I think a traffic study is appropriate, both at the effects on the intersection and the impact on what you're proposing for the primary entrance. I think that could end up being problematic both for other customers in the mall and for customers coming into Chick-fil-A. So again, I'm mirroring what Al said. Those are my 2 concerns, the aesthetic kind of issue as well as some potential traffic things.
Okay.
And again, not to say that I wouldn't be first in line to get a Chick-fil-A. So,
Understood.
that-
No, that's why we're here.
Okay.
We want to hear the concerns, and so we can walk away and figure out the next steps.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Ernie?
Can I assume that this Chick-fil-A would be closed on Sundays, as are the rest?
That's correct.
I'm concerned, too, about the traffic. It's a very, very well-traveled area. There's BJ's just up the street from it, and other stores, and, of course, the main mall itself. I think a traffic study is warranted in this case.
Yep, and we will provide that as we move forward to the town.
Anything else? Not for now?
That's it.
Huh?
I guess I echo all the other comments. I mean, I guess when I look at it, and I live relatively close to the mall, I think we're forfeiting the prime green space for the mall with this particular project. So to your point, Joe, on the corridor, and I think that's another item to discuss. The corridor that's been created out there has been created with a lot of thought. I looked in the code before I came to the meeting tonight. The corridor study was done back in 1994 and 1996, and Fred Salzberg and I were on that committee when that was drafted. And it was drafted with the purpose of creating exactly what we have today. So I find it kind of strange that we would want to allow that to be forfeited. And relative to the 35% that evidently was compromised with LL Bean, begs the question in my mind, having done business in other communities, why don't we remove some of the impervious area then to still maintain the 35%? So I agree with traffic. I've driven through that intersection, and especially around the holidays. It's almost suicidal during the holidays. And I think Chick-fil-A is known to be a pretty significant traffic generator. You have a very popular product. So my question is the same. Is there another location within the mall or elsewhere within our community that's a better fit than this?
Okay. Anything else, Scott?
Nope.
Okay. I'll echo a lot of the comments that we've heard. To the point about building across the road, if you will, into the other parking space, I know that there are certain parts of that parking area that are controlled by Macy's and other, in the mall itself. You'd be removing a lot of parking with this footprint. I mean, you're providing 65 or something like that spaces on here, I thought I saw.
That's correct, 65.
You'd be taking out double that or more to put a building in across the street. Not that I disagree with, moving it. Are there other spaces in the mall that are available? Funscape comes to mind. I know it's buried way in the back, but there's a totally unused parking lot there
Right.
and half a building. Now, I understand, I don't know if Wilmore owns that, or if that's a separate parcel like Macy's or Lord and Taylor, those buildings that are sort of owned by those operators. The Regal Cinema, talking about.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. I mean, I don't, at this point in time, I don't know the
You know,
details of that, but.
There are other locations that are set up for restaurants in the town, in this area, that are ready for, there's no demolition required. No, there's a pad over at Victor Crossing by the Walmart, right opposite that island building. I don't know if you can move that up, Wes. There's a pad right there. There's a pad opposite. I don't know, did they already build the pad out next to the burger place, Five Guys? I don't know if that's still a pad available or if that was already built with yeah, they put a building there. But there is one large parcel that was always designated for a restaurant right there. And no green space, no issues with traffic. There's tons of parking there for that application. And, it's an easy on, easy off from the thruway, honestly, to go into that plaza and back out again to get back on the thruway, or anywhere else in the region for that matter.
Right. Understood.
So there are other opportunities in the town that wouldn't be removing a pretty prominent piece of green space from the mall. And honestly, if you put this there, I know you'd probably be looking over most of the building, or at least most of the site, but it's still, what you see is the mall, and putting it there would disrupt that line of sight from that intersection, cars approaching from the south, east. What else can I say? Architecture that is in the Route 96 overlay district for architecture, you'll notice across the street, I forget, Al or Joe mentioned, Alex Anani, North Face, Beer Project, all those buildings were built with the more historic architecture in mind on that corridor. So anything that goes along this piece, I'll bring up, was it City Mattress, Stickley's, those are very arts and crafts style building facades that they took great pains to provide that architecture to, not just make it a box. And honestly, we pushed McDonald's pretty hard to get a more, I'll call it a softer McDonald's look.
Yeah, I mean, we felt that we were in the right realm with other quick serves that are on the corridor. Yeah, and you're the only one that's talked about architecture, so if anybody else had any feedback, now's the time for us to hear it, so we can, make sure we have all the information so we can move forward appropriately.
I've been on the board long enough, I've been on multiple architectural review committees, and so this stuff comes to mind as I bring it up. I mean, there are other experts on different pieces of these projects that are on the board, which makes this a really diverse set of people. So I know Al's also involved in architecture and might want to say something.
Yeah, no, well, I was going to echo your comments around the architecture. I mean, again, to the extent that it was over in the, I'll call it the Walmart Plaza, probably the proposed architecture would be very suitable. If for some reason we were to concede the green space there, which I think is highly unlikely, then something with a much more historic presence would be preferred. So it really depends on location. I think the architecture then would be either acceptable or would need some probably
Okay.
modification.
Other than the green space and architecture and a couple other things about traffic, Wes, I'll give you an opportunity to chime in if there's anything that maybe you've seen so far, engineering-wise, that might consider as well, or they might want to.
Well, we actually did have a kind of a pre-application or pre-conference meeting with Mr. Bebout a few weeks ago. And so we did touch base a little bit, and I think I shared at that point very similar comments to what the board has shared tonight. For example, with regard to the green space, what Eastview Mall has there is it's a very it's kind of a gateway entrance to the mall, and it's unique to Victor, right? You don't have this kind of green topography with those mature trees maybe in some of the other suburbs come to the top of my mind. So, if there were another place in that mall area within a parking lot to occupy, that might be okay. We did talk a little bit about sanitary sewer. While I don't know the exact configuration, I don't feel that it would be a problem just on my basic understanding of where the sanitary sewer goes in this area. That's probably not going to be a problem, but we would want to see, water usage, that sort of thing, if they did submit an application.
Are there any utilities that actually go through the site where they want to excavate down to the more parking level?
Based on our information, there is not.
Be wide open?
I mean, there might be an electrical line to a light pole or something, but there's no water, sewer, storm.
Okay. Because Dick's had that problem when they put in their big outdoor court, there was a large, I forget what it was, water line or sanitary sewer or something that went through there. It wasn't pretty, whatever it was, so they had to be careful with that as they built either over it or around it. So that's why I ask.
Okay. Does the, and again, we're talking out loud, does the board have a thought that, we've heard the concerns about the location and the green space. Could the board envision, mitigation being provided that would get you in a more comfortable place? And when I say mitigation, I'm talking about plantings and landscaping and.
If it weren't, I'll speak for myself, but maybe the board has similar feelings. If it weren't for the fact that this is the gateway to the mall, and we have all these mature trees and green space, and I think Wes had it up before, and I guess you have a different perspective now aerially, but I don't see the board in favor of taking any of that green space, to tell you the truth. So, and the fact is, I don't know where you'd make up, taking away that.
Yeah, I don't have the answer right now. I'm trying to explore, all the options here.
But it's kind of why I suggested taking a look at any out parcel that's not being used. And to my mind, the only one right now is Funscape, but you don't have a store big enough to take up Lord and Taylor, obviously, so.
And
that's
obviously,
there, so I don't know
even though everybody might know where it's at, visibility is certainly an important part to any quick-serve restaurant.
Fully appreciate that. And I did mention over by Walmart, that's pretty
Yeah.
visible itself, once you get in there. And if people are looking for Chick-fil-A and they know where it is, they'll go. And I've done that.
Right, because, I'm not telling the board anything they don't know, but a lot of, a majority of the traffic is pass-by traffic that's already on the corridor.
Sure.
So, visibility is important wherever they may locate.
I mean, honestly, there's a bank over there that is very visible. I'm sure they're not ready to leave their building or that spot, but, that's also a visible spot as well. I don't know where else you could put something that's that direct. So, I'm not, yeah. So, I don't know. They don't use much parking. They use that for valet parking, I think, that other lot. So.
But the bank is empty there.
Well, it's not empty. I'm not trying to evict them. I'm just saying,
I thought the bank closed it.
oh, bank closed what? They're out of business?
It's no longer
I
operating.
don't know. Are they still operating? I don't know. I don't use.
I don't know.
So I hope
haven't-
hope they're still there. I have a safe deposit box.
If there are,
To tell you.
I mean, this is one of those times when you look, well, there's a shell game. There's another place a bank could be that you could be there and all that, you know what I mean? And that makes it a lot more difficult for you, obviously. So I'm trying to think a little out of the box, but that's a space that I think would be a great place for a Chick-fil-A. You got a lot of traffic that walk right over from parking at the mall. They could walk across the road and walk right in there.
How about the old Sears Auto Center?
Yeah,
That's true, that's not occupied, but it's not a standalone, it's not out front.
Well, you could demise it and do
Yeah.
something with it if you want.
Right, you know where I'm talking about, Wes?
Right next to the very popular
Yeah.
Dick's Sporting Goods.
Yeah, that auto center is a piece of the building that was not developed with Aaron, there you go. It's that one space. So there are, I mean, if you demolished it, put the building across from it towards, what is it, Target? You know, and put it in there, and then, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no,
I'm not a
that's-
developer, so I,
that's
you know.
fair.
Yeah,
or other areas on 96 further on down the line, too. I mean, there's,
yeah, I mean, it's not Benderson, I'm sure they'd love to have you there, and I would too if I were them. Or not Benderson, Wilmerite, but Benderson would love to have you down the road. So, I certainly would encourage Chick-fil-A to stick at it and come to Victor, we'd love to have you.
Okay,
I don't think it's a good site for anything,
okay.
so, anybody else have any feelings about that?
Same.
It's disappointing of a good informal discussion. We're trying to be
Absolutely.
open and straightforward with you. And, you know, if there was no engineering and no code issues to deal with, you know, we might be talking differently. But, I mean, this is the entrance to the mall. It's pretty
kind of our
prominent.
last piece of green space
Yeah.
that we've got there.
And we try to preserve that. And the same with when, you know, Victor Crossing was built. There was a ton of green space that was sculpted and kept so that you would have some shielding, that's not the right word, but, you know, it allows it to soften the look of the entire plaza. And this is the only thing that softens the look of Eastview Mall,
Okay.
notwithstanding whatever architecture they put in there that's newer and looks fairly nice. We can't do anything about, you know, green space, so.
Okay, well, we appreciate the board's time, we appreciate the input. We definitely want to be here, so we'll figure out our next steps.
I'm sure my wife would be the first one in line over there, too. We're disappointed when we're driving on the thruway on Sunday, so it's like, oh, it's Sunday. But,
They're closed.
yeah,
But thank you.
totally appreciate your model and not a problem.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. Thanks for coming in and having that talk. Discussion Lisa put on here, so you want to run this one?
Keith can. if you
Oh,
want.
okay. We're talking about the 26th Planning Board meeting, because it conflicts with what the
Early
primary,
voting,
primary, right?
or yes, prime,
Yep,
Primary
it's
for
a
the-
presidential primary,
Primary.
like a early voting location we are. So that whole week,
yeah, we can't just move it to Wednesday. So,
Lisa knows my feeling about
yes,
this.
we've
I
talked.
know, I know.
So, and it's the solar farm, right, is what?
Yeah, so we did have one application that came in on the deadline that would technically be on March 26. So Keith and I were looking to see what you guys wanted to do about that particular application. If you wanted to put it on March 12th, with them knowing that you weren't going to be ready for a decision, we could do that, or they would move to the April 9th, which is over their 5-week, you know, deadline. But there's 3 at the March 12th meeting, that 2 of them will be carried over just because of county comments. So also wondering where you want those to go.
So
You
just another alternative idea, which I'm not necessarily vying for, but virtual meeting? Zoom?
For the solar farm? I don't know.
We
Well, I mean, we did it for 2 years, so.
Yeah.
have a conflict? No,
Yeah, open
I think
meetings law.
because of COVID, after that,
It's one application, right?
one application.
Are there no rooms in the town hall that we can use?
There could be carryovers too from, you got
Oh,
7,200
right.
Ross. There's
Right. Those two definitely
Three
will
big
be
ones,
carried
yeah.
over.
Which one? 7200 Rossin?
And Rivera, because of county.
Oh, right.
They have to go to county, and the 13th is the county meeting, so.
So, a little background.
three.
When we talked about this in the last staff meeting, Lisa asked me this question, and, well, we could move it a week later. All right, that means we have a meeting that week,
Weeks in a
and
row.
then another week, the week after that. So I didn't see that as worthwhile, depending on how many applications we had. So I was just going to say, cancel it and just move everything another week. But I needed input from you guys and to see how you feel about it, and then to hear what it was that was going to be in front of us. And if it's a couple of carryovers, you're saying?
So, yeah, so Rossin Road minor subdivision will carry over, and the Riverian charging stations will carry over. I'm assuming Highline, it's a sketch. You would have a resolution possibly.
Now, there have been times in the past when we've had meetings in the upstairs room. And that wouldn't bother me as long as I knew that there would be maybe a couple of public here. If it was going to be an overflow room, that would be a whole nother challenge.
if 7,200 carries over,
I feel that might be.
That might be busy.
and same thing with the solar one.
Solar could generate a lot of, yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's a
explain.
big
We generate a lot of
farm.
electricity.
Yes.
A lot of static from that application.
So it's, I think the discussion we had was either on either side of the week we have to cancel, you have this weird extra meeting, or you have a really full agenda, the first meeting in March or the first meeting in April. Like those are,
I'd say fill up, go a longer meeting, probably more productive than 2 back-to-back weeks, but
Yeah.
I'm flexible, so I'll go with
and
whatever.
your carryovers, like Lisa suggested too, like they probably, any comments you guys give them on the first meeting in March, like if you did the next meeting the next
wouldn't
week,
necessarily
they're
be
not
ready.
gonna be ready,
Right.
and you guys probably wouldn't be ready with whatever they gave you, I'm guessing.
So someone has to explain to me how the primary works. It's early voting?
Yep, so this is a schedule.
Yeah.
That whole week, they're in the main meeting room, and it's early voting, so they have,
Is it both?
the
is it-
public has the
Is it both
option.
parties, or is it Republican or Democrat? I'm just curious.
So all districts, I guess, can come here. You don't have to go to your
But it's not like
specific.
one day of voting, right? It's a
Right.
week
I'm
of
saying
voting.
the traffic
and
should be pretty minimal on
Right.
any given day.
That's why I'm thinking, why isn't it in another room upstairs?
I think legally, once they put it where it's supposed to be, it has to stay there, right?
Oh, I could say town hall with an arrow and go upstairs, yeah,
So the only difference with this one is the presidential
yeah.
primary election, so I guess it's by the state, so.
So, it says 8 PM, our meeting starts at 7.
Unless you want an
we just
8:30
go to-
meeting.
Well, no, can we tell them to end it at 7? I mean, the other ones are at 6 o'clock, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They got. Okay.
Whatever.
I see
happened
time on Sunday, 9
Election
AM to
day.
6 PM, so,
Right.
Tuesday the 2nd
oh,
is the
right.
actual day of voting. Like.
All right, I give up. I would
I
just as soon
can-
have the meeting in here to allow anybody that wants to see, and wants to attend the meeting to be comfortable if there's lots of people, or even if there's one person. So
So we can do.
I would
the-
suggest just going to the first meeting in March and having everything on that meeting.
Are you okay having the solar farm 2 weeks earlier than they normally would be?
Well, that's one way to split it up, I guess. Would we be able to take any action on it if even it
No.
was possible?
Gotta go
So
to
it would just
county.
be a meeting to discuss the project
Right.
and no decision.
Right, I would let them know that there would be no decision possible for that meeting. And they would, all of them would move to the April 9th then.
How's that? You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It sounds like a plan to me.
Okay,
So
Sounds good.
move the solar farm up, and everything else goes back to the 9th.
And that gives you
Okay.
enough time for advertising and everything? Moving the solar farm up to, okay.
Yep, that gives me time to advertise for the solar farm and everything. That makes everything okay. So, and that was the only one that came in on that deadline, so.
I might come here and camp out from 7 to 8 and see if anybody shows up.
Just out of curiosity.
No, to make my point, but that's besides, it's on the record, so I better not say anymore.
I
okay.
will let the applicants know that.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
And I think that's it, except there's pictures, right?
Pictures after you adjourn.
Once the adjourn happens, so we need to adjourn. Ernie moves,
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor? We're adjourned. All right. Okay, I guess we have a picture of each one of us? How's that work?
I think